Hello everybody, I'm Kim Conchie, the Chief Executive of Cornwall Chamber of Commerce, and here we are for the Cornwall Chamber TV show in Cornwall Channel Studios on Bodmin Moor. And today my guest is Louise Midgley. Louise, many of you will remember as the face for Cornwall of ITV West Country News. Before many years ago now, she set up her own communications agency, Louise Midgley Communications. And the Chamber of Commerce, we've appointed Louise as the G7 campaign manager. We're in a hectic year anyway, and we knew that this opportunity for Cornwall to really be in the spotlight needed a professional to front us up and make sure that we were giving a good account of Cornwall's businesses in this whole mix as we could. So I'm delighted to welcome Louise to the Chamber TV show this morning. Hi Louise.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And here we are now. You've been working with the Chamber of Commerce for several weeks on this G7 project. I know before we started you'd said that this is something really important for Cornwall. How is it now that you're in the mix?
Well, I really did want to be involved, and when it became apparent that the Cabinet Office would be organising the G7 summit, so it wasn't going to be very easy just to offer my media management skills or anything like that, which I've done in the past for the Olympic torch relay. You know, there was a small tight team of us working with the Cornwall Development Company, Cornwall Council, my colleagues at Excess Energy. You know, we really pulled together for the media management of that extraordinary event, day one of the Olympic torch relay. There was only going to be one of those, of course.
And what a day that was.
What a day it was. And
yeah.
of course we worked with our colleagues, our national colleagues, LOCOG, the London Olympic Organising Committee,
yeah.
and their PR's Freud. So that was an incredible thing. The world's media literally arrived in Cornwall for months beforehand even. And I used to drive Chinese journalists all over the place to see the nicest, funniest, sweetest, most interesting things that they could in the run-up to that great day. So I knew I wanted to be involved. It wasn't going to be that easy. And then you called me up and said, we know this is going to be huge for Cornwall. And I think the point is, you need it to have a lot of legacy. It can't just be a talking shop for 3 days where they happen to be in Cornwall and then they go away. And so that is the important thing, don't you think? You saw that?
Absolutely. I think that keeping Cornwall in the spotlight up to G7, but then I think one of the jobs of the Chamber of Commerce will be to keep that profile going through to COP26, where some of the same issues will be relevant, and through to this Global Insight Analysis event at Eden next March, because here's an opportunity, and I think you and I both feel that the values that are being espoused in the G7 conference sit very comfortably with Cornwall's direction of business and actually psyche of our people. So it's all about shared values, climate change, free trade, and these sort of things, which I think are very comfortable for us here.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote them down because they kind of morph a little bit, these values that we're getting from the Cabinet Office. But it's building back better, stronger and fairer after the global pandemic. That's one of our themes. It's tackling climate change, promoting sustainable living and biodiversity, the green economy, and technology, innovation and scientific discovery. So all of those things we can now encapsulate in Cornwall, from floating offshore wind to geothermal energy. There's so many things going on in this little part of the world
that actually lead those values. I mean, there's some of those things we are really, not only thought leaders because we all very protective of the place we live and work, but actually some action taking place here, which is really leading the way. So, and it feels like quite a serious, I suppose the pandemic's been quite a serious time for many of us. Business has been struggling. We've been worried about that. We've had to come to terms with different things like working from home and not having the hospitality and the fun perhaps that we normally have in Cornwall. And this G7 conference, those themes feel quite serious, don't they? And I think it's important that we bring that Cornwall sense of informality to them, but that they are quite serious and we treat them quite with respect.
But things that have come out, it's been undeniably such a tough time for so many businesses. Others have thriven, is that a word? But lots of us have been working from home. In my case, that's kind of what I do anyway. I work with people all over the place, but from home. To discover that you can work from home, and you can work from home wherever your central office used to be, is amazing, actually. And so many people I know who used to commute to London just thinking, I never want to do that again.
Absolutely. And I think once we've overcome the problems that Cornwall's undoubtedly experienced in hospitality and retail, for example, but there will be things playing to both our strength as a place, you can work from home, and our values of reducing, travel, reducing emissions, and therefore, which I think will play to our psyche as well.
Although I must say, coming up to these beautiful studios in Bodmin and travelling up the A30 for the first time in absolutely ages was such a pleasure this sunny morning.
Nice to get around on a sunny morning sometimes, absolutely. And as for Cornwall's businesses, I mean, the Cabinet Office from the start said that they wanted to give local businesses as many opportunities to be in the supply and provision change for the event as possible. Do you think we've captured that yet? I mean, it still seems a little bit hit and miss. That wording that they said about that we're finding it quite difficult, aren't we, to find a way through that?
We haven't quite seen that yet. It's apparent that they have approached certain businesses. I think table makers, 7 table makers.
And congratulations to Scott Woiker, who's got that contract to deliver the tables for Carbis Bay Hotel.
Yeah, amazing. So I suppose they have in mind themselves, because it's the Cabinet Office, but they have co-opted local people to work with them. It's just that we haven't perhaps been able to put as much input to that as we might have liked.
No.
But what we're doing, I mean, we're getting on with it, come what may. And I think the enormous opportunity here is that we're all working together, necessarily so. So it's the Cabinet Office, it's Cornwall Council, it's Cornwall Development Company, the Local Enterprise Partnership, the bids, so on and so forth, Cornwall Chamber, Falmouth team. Everyone is having to work together because we need to know what each other are doing. We don't want to have Venn diagrams going on all over the place of, similar activity. That doesn't work at all. So it doesn't make best use of our resources. So we're doing what we do best, which is hopefully bringing lots of organisations together and creating a bit of a buzz around this event for everybody, from the Isles of Scilly to Bude to Rame Peninsula.
Absolutely, we'll come to that event in a moment. And I think Cornwall works better when we do collaborate in this sort of landscape of small and micro businesses that we've got here. No one business has all the financial clout or all the connections to do all of these amazing sort of global significant things oneself, but together we really can get some of that cracking. And we're talking about the serious themes of G7. Are they consistent? Are they things which Cornwall's businesses, with the Chamber of Commerce at the hub of that, can we get together? Is it consistent in your view, Louise, that we've got Build Back Greener and yet we've got increasing free and fair trade? Are those consistent messages that we're comfortable with, do you think?
I think they have to be. They have, we can't just stop the world, we can't stop the clock. There has to be improvements. People have to grow, but they have to grow in a sustainable way, which is the conference Chamber holds annually, but this is a really beefed up affair, isn't it? Happening on the 8th of June, organised by veteran sustainability expert John Henry Looney. We've got people from all over the world taking part in it and no doubt signing up to be part of it. So, the introduction is by HRH, Duke of Cornwall, Prince Charles, of course, very generously agreed to do an introduction. We have it's World Oceans Day as well. So Hugo Tagholm from Surfers Against Sewage, CEO, is also speaking for us. We've got brilliant speakers. And then in the afternoon, we'll have masterclasses talking about how businesses can really change for the better in their sustainability. And it's a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. Climate change is a given. We know that. We're not telling people that there's climate change. We know it to be true. But to find ways of doing things better, more ethically, levelling up, all these things are so important, and I think that's what we've got to work on.
Absolutely.
It's not that we don't want to grow, but we want to grow sustainably.
And that is the title of that conference on the 8th of June. It's the Cornwall Chamber of Commerce Sustainable Growth Conference. nominally at the Environment and Sustainability Institute at the Penryn campus of Exeter University, but you can register online. Everything will be available virtually, and you can register now if you go to the Cornwall Chamber of Commerce website. So that's one of our very exciting events. Prior to that, we've got an interesting challenge out to our political masters. On the 27th of May, we've got an event chaired by the outgoing Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce, Adam Marshall, and he's inviting some of his opposite numbers from the G7 and guest countries to come and discuss and challenge what businesses, what ethical business representative groups like Chambers of Commerce around the world want from our political masters at G7, at COP26 and so on and so forth. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well. That is really, with those other nations being actually on the panel, that conference will again be something which Cornwall Chamber of Commerce and British Chambers of Commerce South West are instrumental in and beamed around the world.
And it's so interesting. I mean, you say now and again that the name Chamber of Commerce is a little bit fusty, but actually, if you look at the nations that are involved in G7 and their guests, chambers are so important and have such high respect. So let's go through them. So UK, United States, Canada, Japan, France, Germany, Italy, and then guests South Korea, India, Australia, and the EU. Across the board, chambers of commerce are so key, and their name doesn't even change very much.
It's what they're called, and it's much as when I started this job 9 years ago, I thought, can't we change it to something like Business Cornwall Excellence or something like that? Chambers of Commerce is what they, and it's a direct translation in French, German, Chinese, or whatever. So we're sort of stuck with that, and I'm fully aware that to some English ears, it does sound a bit fusty, as you say, but here we've got to be what we do, haven't we?
And embrace it, because it's known right across the world, it's respected right across the world, and all of those nations have chambers of commerce that are really active, like yourselves. That's the other thing I'd say about Cornwall Chamber. It's a young chamber and it's a small chamber, but it doesn't half beat above its weight.
Well, I'm hoping that when G7 is over, that we can retain your services to put our submission in for the Chamber of the Year award, because not only are we absolutely at the cutting edge and doing everything in a young and vibrant way, which meets all those sustainable and environmentally aware issues, but we've had a good lockdown in the sense that our online events have been top notch. Retention of members is 98.5%, which is unbelievable. We're getting new members coming online all the time, and new business partners like Cornwall Channel as well. So we're doing all that well. Plus, I hope, holding Cornwall while the world's focus is upon us, as a really vibrant business venue as well through G7 and, as I say, through to next year.
This is a golden opportunity, and it's also very exciting. And I think part of what we want to do is be inclusive about it. And so obviously it's happening down in Carbis Bay, and the International Media Centre is in Falmouth. Those are facts. But we want people, businesses in Isles of Scilly or Penzance or St Austell, Newquay, Launceston, Bodmin, as I say, Rain. We want to engage businesses up there, because people all over the place are doing such amazing things. So that's what we're going to be doing over those 3 days.
And the Cornwall Chamber of Commerce is the only organisation that's done anything to involve the whole of the Duchy. Otherwise, it would have just been Falmouth and Carbis Bay, which hopefully is fantastic for them. I mean, there's going to be some disruption, I imagine, but I hope those businesses will do well. But by the regional hubs which you and I have created, there is an opportunity for those further flung bits of the Duchy to send in their businesses which really are key and need to be spotlighted at the same time, and also get some live coverage from, you and I doing our bit in Falmouth and the event, the conference itself, out to those Bude and Rain Peninsula and Launceston, and I hope those regional hubs will hold some debates and discussions there as to what the opportunities and challenges are. I mean, young people might see, inviting the industrialised nations of the world to Cornwall as more of a challenge than a benefit. But I think we're not frightened of having those open and honest discussions.
I mean, certainly Cornwall as a whole is very much, it's about education, it's about nature, young people, all sorts of different aspects are being properly worked on, and it's been really impressive actually working with all the authorities and the private bodies as well, seeing that so many people have got so many good ideas and they really do want it to be inclusive, and not just of that weekend, but to have a legacy.
And we're seeing that legacy. I mean, we've got our patron, who's Baron Miners of Truro, holding an event in September with some of those key business leaders in Cornwall to talk about what the jobs of the future might be, the careers that will keep young people in Cornwall and indeed attract people back to Cornwall, the diaspora that's left, and new faces. Absolutely, the whole gamut of opportunities, which, floating offshore wind, geothermal, the whole digitisation of businesses, working from home. What are the opportunities of the future that are going to benefit Cornwall? As well as, and I'm not diminishing in any way, the beautiful place we live in and the hospitality offering. Let's make sure that's absolutely top notch and sustainable. And
it's always been interesting. I mean, I moved back, I grew up here, went away, lived all over the place, including Italy and Greece and France. But coming back when I did, so many people, I have to say mainly from London, sort of said, "Oh, what do you do down there?" And I would say, "Well, actually, I work for ITV, so and actually, I get to have a lovely life as well." So there was an awful lot of sniffiness about not being in the cities, but actually, aren't we? I don't want to be smug about it, but during lockdown, just to be able to get down onto that beach every single day and see the world around us has been amazing.
And I think more and more people are realising that, and I do think that the 20th century wasn't Cornwall's time to shine, but now these values and a place to work and that better work-life balance, and all we know about well-being in the workplace and so on and so forth, are really playing into Cornwall's strength. So I see this as being the place really to, you can work here for a business based anywhere, you can set your business up here, and now nearness to markets doesn't matter because you're, as people say, like Toby Parker's at Headforwards, I'm a nanosecond from London or anywhere in the world on the web. So,
well, we have a mutual friend, don't we, who literally spent his life flying all over the world. And he's discovered that whilst, of course, you need to be face-to-face sometimes, you really don't need to be face-to-face all the time. Every meeting doesn't have to be face-to-face. And that's been the big eye-opener. And he's got time to go and use his boat and get on the golf course and all those things he hasn't been able to do for years.
Yeah.
As well as working as hard as ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think that this is a time for Cornwall to shine. And now that you're immersed in this work with Cornwall Chamber, Louise, are there things that have surprised you about the direction of business? Are there things which you're thinking, actually, there's more we can do? So the next year is going to be an interesting focus. How do we keep that going? How do we keep Cornwall moving ahead for the future?
Well, if I can speak from the Chamber point of view, I've been really impressed by a small team working so hard and so well together, led by yourself, Kim, yes. I mean, you're Mr. Enthusiasm, be fair to say, but and bringing inclusivity to the businesses that you work with. So is it a political expression to say we're better together? I think it probably is. I think it probably came from Brexit or otherwise, but we are better together. Businesses do benefit from bouncing ideas off each other, not being little microcosms all by themselves. They certainly benefit from that. And I think it gives people added impetus if they do work together. I really think that's the powerful message out of that. Don't be in your silos.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm fully aware as a former business owner myself that competitiveness obviously is the sort of lifeblood, but in Cornwall, collaboration wherever you can is so important for us all, and I think that's why the Chamber of Commerce works quite well here. Yes, I am very enthusiastic about it, but I do think there's, with the geography we've got, with the opportunity we've got now, to work together is just going to give us enormous power, and I think
pleasure.
and pleasure, absolutely. No, nobody said that working had to be a chore. You know, there's lots of good things going on which are absolutely, you know, mentally exciting for us all to be involved in. So it's
that's one thing about this. It's been so stimulating to be involved in, have so many fingers in so many different pies, which I kind of always have had to an extent, but this is a different level altogether. You know, this is really interesting.
It is, and that of course comes with a bit of you know, sometimes it's like herding cats, isn't it? But you know, but it's been fun largely, hasn't it, to get everybody working together. So let's just capture so the things that we've done from the Chamber of Commerce point of view for Cornwall's businesses on our own are, so the British Chambers of Commerce South West event, chaired by the outgoing Director General Adam Marshall on the 27th of May. I think it's 8 till 10 in the morning, and that should be a really interesting debate. There's the Sustainable Growth Conference on the 8th of June, as Louise says, which is World Oceans Day, and we will be really looking at sustainability from a business perspective, and coming up, the masterclasses in the afternoon will come up with practical solutions for your business that you can implement and embed, and be assured that, you know, increasingly your customers are going to want you to see you doing those. Younger colleagues are going to want to see you doing those, and increasingly the stick is that, you know, procurement from larger businesses and public sector will insist that you have some environment and sustainable policy. So, you know, that's an important one. And then the regional hubs will be operating for the 3 days of the conference itself. Louise and I will be in the Cornwall House one day, in the Media Centre in Falmouth one day, and then hopefully the Cornwall House on the waterfront one day, where we'll be showcasing, of course, we hope, you know, Cornwall's waterside excellence, whether that be some of our great boat builders, and Falmouth being the you know, the Falmouth Bay testing site for the Wave Hub and so on and so forth. Plenty going on that, so we'll hopefully
loads to do with export and investment.
So that whole sort of, you know, Cornwall, you know, and that is where I think Cornwall, we do things best. We look to the future, but knowing that we've had this expertise here in the past, we've been brilliant business people, we've been global leaders in all these sort of things in the past. So that will be going on the 3 days, and there'll be plenty of opportunity for Cornwall's businesses to get involved, and rest assured we are pushing for Cornwall's businesses to provide the, you know, everything from the telecoms to the table water at the Cornwall House, and everything else that's going on in the Media Centre and around Falmouth for those 3 days, as well as Carbis Bay and Tregenna Castle. And then we'll be following up with a whole year's worth of activities around these themes. Plenty to be arranged, and if you'd like to work with us on any of those, please do let us know. And primarily, the one that we've got in the bag already is Lord Miners doing this sort of legacy event in September, which will pay tribute to sort of what the jobs and so on of the future might be. Yeah. So it's
all running up to the COP26, the UN Climate Change Conference of Partners. I had to look that one up, I must admit. But that's what it is, and that's hugely important as well. So all of your activity will go up towards that, and as you say, towards the Eden conference.
Yes,
early
March.
Next year. Yeah.
So it's you know, it's a great moment, and I know there'll be people who are thinking, oh God, it's disruption, it's this and that and the other. But I think that we've got to say that to have this moment to put Cornwall in the forefront, and you know, it's not only, we don't want the problems airbrushed out. That's the thing I've said from the start, and I've been in the media saying, you know, this is an opportunity not to say that we don't, you know, Cornwall's leading the way on some of these sustainable businesses, but you know, we've still got poor housing, we've still got people, you know, who haven't benefited from EU funding to get highly educated and that sort of thing, and let's use this private sector drive to really bring some of that to Cornwall as well.
Wonderful Simon Reeve documentary, two-part documentary about all about Cornwall, because he couldn't do his travel journalism, but it was very interesting. He didn't in any way pull any punches about the good, the bad and the ugly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And put like that, that's very honest, isn't it? And we, the Chamber of Commerce, will be very honest in what we can do for the businesses of Cornwall, not just in the run up to G7, but for this legacy that we're talking about as well. I hope that businesses can prosper here. It's not much fun when we've had 21 years of EU funding because we're the poor part of England. We don't want that. That's not a good message, and I don't think there's any need to be as these new industries come to the forefront in which Cornwall can really lead and add some value in niches around the world. So,
and the apprenticeship schemes is going to be really important, and the possibility of doing your degrees here, so people don't have to move away. That £9,000 a year just in fees, of course in our day we didn't have.
We were lucky
it's
generation.
Tough on young people, and I really feel for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So whether young people from Cornwall can stay here and do them, or we can increasingly attract people from the rest of the world to come and see what amazing place this is to live and work. Yeah, so absolutely. And we are a collaborator ourselves, so if you've got some things to say around any of those G7 themes that we've been talking about, please do get in touch, kim@cornwallchamber.co.uk, and we'll weave in your messaging over the next 12 months and way beyond, of course, into Cornwall's time to shine, a bright future, I hope. So, Louise, thank you for everything you're doing. I couldn't possibly have coped with the amount of connections that you've had to bring, and the legwork, and some of the pulling your hair out moments of herding these cats for this. But I do think we're on the track to something quite exciting at G7 for Cornwall.
It's exciting, it's extraordinary actually, and it's been so much fun along the way as well. So thank you for bringing me into your team.
Pleasure to work with you. Louise Midgley, thank you very much indeed.